The balancing is from dimension to dimension. Thus, in order to balance the dimensional variances in vibration, a quarantine was set up. Every effort is made to quarantine this planet. The Guardians guard the free will distortion of the mind-body-spirit complexes of third density on this planetary sphere. The events which require activation of quarantine were interfering with the free will distortion of mind-body-spirit complexes. These Guardians sweep reaches of our Earth's energy fields, attempting to be aware of any entities approaching. An entity which is approaching is hailed in the name of the one creator. There is contact at the level of light form or light buddy being, depending upon the vibratory level of the guardian. Any entity thus hailed is bathed in love light and will of free will obey the quarantine due to the power of the law of one. The creator is one being. The vibratory level of those able to reach the quarantine boundaries is such that, upon seeing the love light net, it is impossible to break this law. Therefore, nothing happens. No attempt is made. There is no confrontation. To not obey quarantine, after being hailed, on the level of which we speak would be equivalent to our not stopping upon walking into a solid brick wall. However, the network of guardians, much like any other pattern of patrols, on whatever level, does not hinder each and every entity from penetrating quarantine, for if the request is made in light love, the law of one will be met with acquiescence. If the request is not made, the only beings who are able to penetrate the quarantine are those who discover windows or distortions in the space-time continua surrounding our planet's energy fields. Through these windows they come. These windows are rare and unpredictable. The closest analogy of its working would be a random number generator within certain limits. The window phenomenon operates from the dimensions beyond space-time in what we may call the area of intelligent energy. Like our cycles, such balancing, such rhythms are as a clock striking. In the case of the windows, no entities have the clock. Therefore, it seems random. It is not random in the dimension which produces this balance. Thus, this being a balancing situation, whereby the free will of the Orion group is not stopped, but given a challenge. Meanwhile, the third density group is not hindered from free choice. In effect, the balancing allows an equal amount of positive and negative influx, this balanced by the mind-body-spirit distortions of the social complex. Thus, in our particular planetary sphere, less negative, as we would call it, information or stimulus is necessary than positive, due to the somewhat negative orientation of our social complex distortion. For many of our centuries, both the Confederation and the Orion Confederation busied themselves with each other, upon planes above our own, shall we say, planes in time-space, whereby machinations were conceived and the armor of light girded on. Battles have been, and are continuing to be fought, upon these levels. Picture, if you will, your mind. Picture it, then in total unity with all other minds of your society. You are then single-minded, and that which is a weak electrical charge in our physical illusion is now an enormously powerful machine, whereby thoughts may be projected as things. In this endeavor, the Orion group charges or attacks the Confederation arms with light. At the level of time-space, at which this takes place in the form of what we may call thought war, the most accepting and loving energy would be to so love those who wished to manipulate that those entities were surrounded, engulfed, and transformed by positive energies. This, however, being a battle of equals, the Confederation is aware that it cannot, on equal footing, allow itself to be manipulated in order to remain purely positive, for then, though pure, it would not be of any consequence, having been placed by the so-called powers of darkness under the heel, as we may say. It is thus that those who deal with this thought war must be defensive rather than accepting in order to preserve their usefulness in service to others. Thusly, they cannot accept fully what the Orion Confederation wishes to give, that being enslavement. The result, a standoff, as we would call it, both energies being somewhat depleted by this. The negative depleted through failure to manipulate, the positive depleted through failure to accept that which is given. Thusly, some polarity is lost. Due to this friction in both sides, if you will, must then regroup. This is the most difficult work of the Confederation. At any one time, only 4 planetary entities of the density of love are asked to partake in this conflict. The 4th density is the only density besides our own which, lacking the wisdom to refrain from battle, sees the necessity of the battle. Thus, it is necessary that 4th density social memory complexes be used. 5th and 6th density entities would not take part in this battle. It has not been fruitful for either side. The only consequence which has been helpful is a balancing of the energies available to this planet, so that these energies have less necessity to be balanced in this space-time, thus lessening the chances of planetary annihilation.